I cannot believe it. I am talking to the Nikita Koloff. Oh my goodness. Nikita, thank you for joining us today.
Mickey, it's just a pleasure, really a privilege to be with you, and I'm looking forward to the interview today. Thanks for having me.
All right, so we're going to jump right into it. I'm going back to 1985, 86, 87. I was a kid who never missed NWA wrestling. I was uh, I was raised in North Alabama, so right across the state line was Atlanta, Georgia. And oh my goodness, I hated you. I hated you. I hated you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I did my job. I did my job, right?
It was like I was so excited when my Rock and Roll Express was on the show, and then you would rush the ring, and I'm like, no, he cannot be here today, because I knew if you rushed the ring, it was over.
Bam, Russian sickle, baby. Come on.
All right, so of course, if it wasn't for Minneapolis, I don't know if we would even have wrestling today, because it seems like every person that I talk with or read about, they started their life in Minneapolis, and that was kind of what the same for you.
Yeah, I don't know if I've been asked before, like, was there something in the water, the water tower, what was the deal there? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it was a mecca. Of course, up there was known as the AWA Vern Gagne. So there
Yes.
was a territory in Minneapolis, and a lot of legendary guys came out of there. Wahoo McDaniel, Blackjack Lanza, Nick Bockwinkel, and the list goes, Jesse Ventura.
Yes.
Hogan started there. He's not from Minneapolis, but he started in the AWA. Hogan did. I remember, Mickey, the day I was in college, and I remember the day him and Brutus Beefcake, now they weren't known as that at the time, but these two behemoths walked in the garage door into our gym. It was called The Gym there in, I think, St. Louis Park. And these two guys walk all the way through, and they were bigger than life. And I grabbed a couple of my buddies. I go, who are those dudes? I looked outside. They had Florida plates on their car, and they're like, they're a couple pro wrestlers. I'm like, oh, okay. Before anybody ever even knew there was a Brutus Beefcake or a Hulk Hogan. It's crazy to think about.
That is unreal that you were there for that start of that. Now, we have just, and we're going to go back to the earlier part of it, but I want to go ahead and touch on this because here in Birmingham, they have just started back up the USFL Football League.
Yeah.
And you almost had an opportunity to be a part of that.
I did. So here's an interesting side note to that. So, again, growing up in Minneapolis, my passion was football. Played high school, college football in northern Minnesota, Morehead State University, scouted by the NFL, suffered a couple setbacks in college. I actually fractured my right leg my freshman year, like Joe Theismann, when Lawrence Taylor broke Joe Theismann's leg. I suffered that same fracture my freshman year, but I was determined to come back, man. My sights were set on the NFL. So I came back and played 3 more years only to fracture my left leg, Mickey, the same way. So 2. And of course, that put a damper on the NFL, but I was determined. So fortunately, actually through a wrestling announcer, you might know the name, Gordon Soley.
Oh, yes.
Gordon Soley helped arrange a tryout with the Tampa Bay Bandits of the USFL. And here's the interesting part. On that team, now I didn't know this, and of course I never showed up in Tampa because I showed up in Charlotte, which I know we'll get into, and the rest is history, so to speak. But on that team in Tampa was 2 guys named Ron Simmons and Larry Fole. Well, if anybody knows their wrestling history, Larry Fole is Lex Luger. They were on that team. I may have met them before I ever never have got into wrestling if I'd went to Tampa.
Wow.
I would have played football with those 2 guys, but never wrestled against those 2 guys. How crazy is that?
That is unbelievable. So the football thing didn't happen.
It did not. a door of opportunity opened up for the wrestling. I was still months away from that tryout. And I thought, some of my buddies, the Road Warriors, Rick Rude, Kurt Hennig, some of the guys, which, by the way, went to high school with 7 of us who were in high school, Robbinsdale High School, that all made a name in pro wrestling. Same high school, Robbinsdale High School. And John Nord and Tom Zink and several others. But a door of opportunity opened up to come to Charlotte and give wrestling a try. So I thought, why not? Well, of course, anyone who's followed my career knows from day one, it was a meteoric rise and, to stardom. And then I just never looked back. I never went to Tampa, just never looked back.